What's up, everybody? Phil Mendoza again. Now, those of you who have followed me or know me from around the shop, you know that growing up here in Colorado, I've always, since a kid, I've been able to chase elk, whether it was following my dad and my uncles around during the rifle season when they used to hunt when I was a kid, to, as I grew up, being able to chase elk with my bow. And to this day, if I was only able to hunt one species, it'd still be elk in September. But sliding up into that number 2 spot is definitely whitetail deer. And it's been about 9 years now that I've been seriously hunting whitetail deer. I had some early experiences where, some walk-in on a couple days, it was just dabbling a little bit. But it's about 8.5 years ago, I had my first legitimate hunt in Nebraska, and I tell you, at that time, all I could think about was, how the hell am I going to sit for 4 or 5 hours in a tree stand? When growing up hunting the West, man, if I could sit for a couple hours, if I got impatient and didn't see anything, I would just walk somewhere else and try to get into the action. Well, whitetail deer hunting is definitely not that. And I've become addicted to the chess match that's played out in the fall. And those of you who have grew up hunting whitetail deer, I tell you, I'm loving the game, and this last season was no different. And I want to give you a little background as to how my season started and where we went, how it progressed up to the point where I'm going to show you this a clip from the second to last sit that I had in Nebraska. So early on, my son and I, we got out turkey hunt. We got to pick up some sheds, and we found some really nice sheds on this lease that I have in Nebraska. And I'll tell you, it was, some of these pictures, some of these deer we'd seen the year before on camera, and I was able to pick up some of their sheds this last spring, and it was exciting because it's something that being able to see it full circle from when they're dropping their antlers to trying to figure out where their bedroom is, where their travel routes are, and the trail cameras. It's definitely been a change of pace, but a different challenge. And we have a cutting link system set up on this property that we lease, and I'll tell you, waking up and looking forward to that 6 a.m. email. I mean, I'd be getting up in the morning, drinking coffee, waiting for that email to come through, at 6 a.m. And sure enough, there it come through, and we get to see all the pictures that from the day before or the night before. And it's something that just built up, the anticipation buildup was super exciting. So I had obviously Nebraska hunts, multiple visits lined out. I also had a Kansas trip lined out at the same place that I tagged out on a nice Kansas, a 3-year-old buck the year before with some friends in northwest Kansas. So the Kansas hunt was going to be with my dad. The first 2 trips to Nebraska were with my 9-year-old son Dominic, and then the last couple trips, my buddy Abe and my brother. So I had quite a few trips that I was able to make, and it ended up being the first couple trips with my son, some does, some young bucks, 2-year-old deer, a bunch of 1-year-old deer that obviously wasn't something that I was looking to put an arrow into, and it was still fun to watch the interaction, learning the patterns, learning the mannerisms, if you will, of whitetail deer hunting, and just taking it all in. And it's something that those early trips were fun, especially for my son, but proved to not deliver any shot opportunities. As I got into my Kansas hunt, that was, I believe it was around the 7th or 8th of November when we started, it was really, bucks there had started to lock down a few does, and there was some other deer definitely chasing. So I did have some encounters with some nice deer. This clip here was of a nice 10-point buck, I believed to be in the 150 class, and he ran this doe, paralleled my stand about 100 yards a couple times, and she was bedding in some trees off to the side, and he kept jumping out of her bed. She'd loop around and she'd go right back to her bed. So there was action there for sure, just nothing that came close enough for a shot opportunity on the 5 days that I spent in Kansas. So then fast forward another week and a half, I was back in Nebraska at our lease, and it was after Thanksgiving, and the deer, I hunted a different part of the property that I had not hunted much before. It's kind of on the outskirts, right up against the property line, and we had one camera set over there. We'd seen some does off and on throughout the summer months and into the fall, so, and a few bucks, but not a ton of activity. So I decided to sit there, and sure enough, I'll go ahead and clip over to the clip now. It's footage from my GoPro that was on my stabilizer, so it's not the best. It's pretty good, but it's not the best. But you'll get to see where I had some deer activity and some deer coming in from across the fence line, and as they approached, there was a doe that jumped the fence. There was multiple does in this group, and one of them jumped over the fence, and the buck was kind of chasing multiple deer back there, so I didn't know exactly which one he was keying in on. But anyway, one of the does came over. She came right across one of my shooting lanes, and I figured, you know, if that buck's going to come in, that doe's going to bring him right across me. And you can see in the footage here, that buck was hanging out right behind the tree there, and I just figured he's going to come in. Well, he starts walking back, and right there, I knew that he actually was probably looking for one of the does that did not jump the fence. And at that point, he starts walking up, and I began to get a little nervous because the other does had moved off, and I took a quick range. I was actually at full draw already at this point because I knew the distance to the cluster of branches and brush that he had just jumped over, and he stood there semi-quartering away, and I drew my bow back and ended up taking a shot. And I'll slow-mo the shot here in a second to show you that what actually happened was that deer was standing out there, and I have a fixed pin sight, and he was standing out there at 6 to 7 yards past what my bottom pin was at its current setting. So I drew my bow back, and I raised my pins up just slightly to hold over his back. Well, when I drew my bow back initially, I looked at the tree branch that was in front of him, in between us, and I can see all my pins underneath the branch. I figured arrow's going to clear, no problem. So then I raised my pins up just a little bit, and with all the excitement, I didn't snap. I didn't think to look again at that top first and second pin. And as I slow-mo the clip here, you can see when that shot broke that arrow nicked one of the branches on its way to the buck and ended up getting deflected down. So it was heartbreaking, to say the least. I knew it was a touch long of a shot, but this was after 17 days of sitting in stand and not having a single shot opportunity on a decent buck. And at this point, I still don't know if this was a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old buck. He was looked good body size, you know, pretty good rack. And like I said, in this area in Nebraska, I would consider a 3-year-old deer to be a good deer. A 4 or 5-year-old would be a really good deer. And this buck, after I shot, he really didn't know what happened. He just jumped over the fence where you can see him there on the clip here, and he just spent a little time there, and I was just hoping that maybe those other does would circle back around, he'd come back around, but he didn't. He ended up moving on, and I ended up not getting another opportunity on that deer. But you know what? All in all, it was a great season, and being able to experience the full year worth of the picking up sheds, scouting, setting up some new tree stands, learning new parts of the property, and just getting out there and experiencing everything that whitetail deer has to offer, it was exciting. So needless to say, 2020 is, the excitement level is already here. I mean, it's middle of April when I'm filming this video here, 2020, and I tell you that I wish whitetail season, I can't wait for it to be here. I would like it to be here now or within the next couple of weeks, because I'm already at that that excitement level is already there. So I can only imagine the buildup I'm going to have leading up to, you know, mid-November, mid-October into the November months, and even into December, as I look to possibly stretch my season out a little bit more this next year. So anyway, thanks for checking out the video and the hunt. Obviously not a successful ending on this one, but much learned. Again, this was just the second year being able to hunt on that property. I really hope that this year things change, or things continue to improve, I should say, not change, because we had a really good year. So anyway, that's all I got on this one. Thanks for watching this clip, and as always, dream big, shoot straight, and we'll see you guys on another video.